Alright, hello and welcome to Gavra Racing's GT4 series. I am Cypher Knight 77 here.
And I'm Kieran McGinley. Good to see you again, Cypher. Last time we met was the pre-season race, and that gave us a good idea of who to watch for this one, so I'm looking forward to the first race of the season.
Alright, this is the first official race of the GT4 season, so all the competitors that were here in pre-season will most likely be here on the track with not too many new faces, actually only one in fact, who didn't race the pre-season race. But other than that, we should expect an interesting race here from all of the competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. It was All-Star gets the corkscrew wrong there. I think this is right at well, Cypher, you must have raced at Laguna Seca before. The corkscrew, probably one of the most challenging tracks on the circuit. How do you approach a corner like that?
Well, that's the difference. When I raced here, I was back in a GT5 car, and those cars aren't as, they're not quite as unstable as some of these GT4 cars can be, but obviously the corkscrew has quite a bit of elevation change that can obviously upset the car quite well, actually. But for the most part, it's getting a good run out of the corkscrew that you go down onto the long back straight after it. And who knows, we might see some moves made on there if someone manages to get it wrong.
So, of course, this is the 10-minute practice session. We've got 7 minutes 20 left. Gives us a good idea of who might be on the pace today. We're having a look at the winner of the pre-season race. But of course, going into this race doesn't mean anything now. Javier ran away with it in the pre-season race.
It's true, but here's the true start to these driver seasons, so we'll see who's really the seasoned player to look out for through this entire season. And who knows, we might see some surprises.
Yeah, absolutely. As Javier makes his way now to turn 11, harsh braking zone into the left-hander. Airport throttle on the way out. To head up the hill through turn 1, but down towards turn 2 in the dreaded hairpin. Really, there's only 3 or 4 corners that actually have names on the circuit. The rest are numbers, so that makes it a little bit easier on the side for getting the corners.
That's true. I mean, I just remember the corners by numbers anyways. Unless they're really important corner names. But nonetheless, besides Javier, who is clearly one to watch for considering preseason, who else do you think will, factor into this race?
Well, I would have said Bowie, but unfortunately he's not here tonight. But I think this, first race of the season, maybe for pre-season, you had some people sandbagging, just looking to get a first race under their belts. Of course, we've got a couple of new drivers here tonight as well, so we're not sure how that's going to go. As it looked like he was running wide onto the sort of gravel dirt there, if you like. But it's just on our ones. But yeah, I think Javier is going to be the one to watch. It's not that pressure of the pre-season race, winning that one by a country mile. It'll be interesting to see though who's going to take the first 30 points of the season.
Right, one of the new drivers we do have today is Ryan, so it'll be interesting to see how he can work that KTM. We saw that last time in Nürburgring that different cars had different advantages on certain parts of the track. This one's a little bit of a different kind of beast to tackle, considering its weird elevation changes throughout the entire circuit. But for the most part, at least through Sector 2, it's normally flat, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of cars have advantages and where.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we saw the KTMs and, in the hands of Javier, the Aston Martin have a really good race. Obviously, Nürburgring suited it. And, that does have the elevation changes, but you've got the corkscrew, that's the big one. That's going to be the real test of mechanical grip. Sort of braking on the uphill and trying to steer through the downhill section of that corner. How many cars will just understeer to see one car getting it wrong already today, and that was just a practice session. So it's a chance for drivers to sort of experiment with the corkscrew in these race conditions and see how they need to take it for the rest of the race.
You see, this is another cornerstone of Laguna Seca, that blind left-hander, which has caught many drivers out, actually, both professional and rookies. So hopefully these drivers can keep it all on the road and stay out of the dirt.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see KTM and the Porsche there, they're quite close together. It's really cool to do. Of course, it is practice at the moment. So, crazy. I believe that's how you say it. Crazy. I'm not quite sure, Saito. How do you say it? I'll go by how you're saying it.
I just say crazy since it's an AH.
Crazy. There you go. You can see that Crazy 2 lap times have been validated already. So this is the practice session, so it's not the end of the world that validation. And you can see that Shushikata getting his lap time validated as well. For track limits.
I think we'll see a lot of those track limits today, actually, considering for the most part, you're always trying to get every single bit you can out of the car. But on a track like this, it can honestly mess the car up if you push too hard. There isn't too much runoff here, if any at all, unlike Nürburgring, so we'll see just how far the drivers can actually push these cars.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are looking at Shushikata now. It is a circuit. We were talking about this cycle that seems to go on forever. It only has 11 corners though, but those 11 corners all your concentration.
That's true. However, what makes Laguna Seca so interesting is its kind of different dynamics compared to other circuits. Laguna Seca is one of those circuits where you need to be concentrating for the entirety of the lap because mistakes are very prevalent from not only you but other drivers that you're racing around. And for the most part, the lap times here are relatively in the 130s, so it'll be quite a long race for some of these guys as they're going to be pushing the cars around the track.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's 36 laps, if I'm not mistaken, for tonight's race.
As per normal rules, these GT4 cars, they don't need to make pit stops, but nothing's stopping them if something goes wrong. But for the most part, I mean, the soft tires are pretty durable, even on these GT4 cars. Some better than others, but for the most part, I don't think we'll see pit stops, if any at all, from these drivers here today. That's kind of just the nature of Laguna Seca.
Yeah, and one thing I am interested in looking at is the season sort of standings and basically looking at the history of the track. Now, it's only been held once before the GT4 series at Laguna Seca, and the record or lap record for that was a 1:28.689 in a Ginetta. We've got Javier out there who's in practice at a 1:28.3. So looking like we could see a new fastest lap record in these GT4 cars in this series.
True. Laguna Seca is one of those tracks that obviously can separate a driver from the car they're using. Right now, only Javier seems to be capable of breaking into the 130s as we have a car off heavy damage, actually, one of the Aston Martins. GTS.
We'd like to found the wall somewhere on his travels there as the checker flag goes out for the qualifying session. Looks like a huge amount of damage to that steering rack as well. So for GTS as he makes his way in towards the pit lane. We've got Adam Crowther there, making his way down to turn 5, I believe that is. He's going out up the hill towards turn 6, and so you've got this blind left-hander you were saying. So you can see the opposite lot coming on there. Losing the back end, now on his way up the hill towards the corkscrew now. And interesting about this track then, corkscrew, when you turn in on left-hander, is turn 8. The right-hander here is 8A, not turn 9. It's an interesting fact for you.
Right, right. They consider this corkscrew kind of 1.5 of a turn, considering it of how the elevation moves. Which is it's kind of interesting. You don't really get turns that have kind of a second part to them very often, more or less be named after a letter.
Yeah, absolutely. It's second to last across the line, second lap time. And that is it then. Practice session is over. And we're looking then at Javier's time, 128.3, 2.6 faster than anybody else out on track. Now, this is only practice, Cypher, so maybe not too much we should be taking away from this for now.
True, true. Some drivers were running with various fuel limits, but in qualifying, you usually want to run with as low as fuel as you can get away with. These GT4 cars being able to run pretty low amounts of fuel without really using any of itself. So we'll see what happens in qualifying.
Absolutely, as we make our way towards it now. Qualifying is underway, 15 minutes of it. And we'll see who's on pole position for the first race of the season. You can see there's an Aston Martin already leaving the pit lane. Let's try and see who it is. Husa is the first person out on track though, as he makes his way through the pit lane here. So it's a very odd pit lane as you rejoin the circuit. It's right on the infield here. Someone sort of makes a mistake and goes off, they're collecting the car coming out of the pit lane here.
Well, I'd be lying if I say that that pit lane hasn't seen its fair share of incidents, but that is true. It's a very slow pit lane compared to other tracks. You certainly do need to kind of stop on the brakes a lot more than you think you do, but I believe after qualifying, these drivers won't really have to worry too much about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So sort of warming up those tyres like 178 ATMs into up the hill. Looks like, is it GTS behind him? It is GTS. He's coming way up the hill. GTS is now in the car. All the cars are out on track, apart from Adam Prother, who's staying in the pit lane now. Three cars here making their way now towards turn 5. That's not something you want to see in qualifying. It's the cars spread out as much as possible can. But some interesting strategies. We'll see if it works for you.
Well, everyone's trying to find space. The track doesn't really allow for too much. Mustang spins a little bit there, actually. I'm not really sure who that was. I think it was,
all the cones have gone now. There's a cone bouncing there, so obviously everyone's trying to make use of that curve right on the inside of which right let's go now. Turn 9 to turn 10. But we have GTS here making its way through the Andretti hairpin of turn 2, making its way towards turn 3. It should be interesting then. I mean, we've seen Javier in this exact Aston Martin, in this exact covers, back sort of 3 seconds faster than GTS around the circle. Is that an omen for the season to come?
well, hopefully not. Obviously, no team just wants to have a weak link, but you know, it's the beginning of the season, so we'll just have to wait and see what these drivers can really do. Obviously, I'm not one to put pressure on anyone, but you know, just go out there and do the best that you can. It's only qualifying after all. The race is where it really matters.
Absolutely. Let's watch GTS then tackle the corkscrew, turning in on the left, and then you can't see the apex as you turn in for it. Down the hill to 8A, and then go towards turn 9. Such a tricky corner, but when you get it right, the corkscrew, it's absolutely brilliant.
A little bit of dirt, but he kept it on the track, so should be an okay lap.
Should be, as GTS makes its way now around the final corner. And what is the first lap time of a new season going to be as he makes his way towards the line, all the way up the hill, the start-finish line. And it's 1:31.5 from GTS on a qualifying lap. We've got Husa behind him. And Javier there, 128.6. We've seen him go quicker already today. So, but again, 2.8 faster than his teammate, GTS there. So, well, GTS has got to find a bit more time than that, that's for sure. That's
right, as more drivers start coming across the finish line, we've got Ryan, who He's the first of the rest to actually get into the 130s, actually. It was crazy right behind him with a 136. Have quite a long qualifying session, actually, around 15 minutes, so there's a lot more time to actually be gained, especially considering Laguna Seca is a track that, you know, even the slightest bit of gain is a gain.
Yeah, absolutely. The striking Mustang here, green and black monster livery, makes his way towards the line. It's coming out. I'm going to be proven wrong, and I am proven wrong. There's a 155, so he must have made a mistake somewhere on that lap, so that's not representative at all.
But yes, it is a little bit weird to kind of see Javier so much faster than all the other GT4 drivers. I mean, I haven't seen too much of his driving, but he's proving to kind of show everybody off at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. As he's coming for a pit stop, obviously to change tyres, refuel, that is a thing you can do and really take advantage of. So Javier now makes his way out of the pit exit, rejoining just after turn 2, as he makes his way out in front of his teammate GTS behind him, who since that qualifying lap has dropped down to P5. As you were saying, only three drivers, post laps faster than a 131. As Javier, Ryan Ruby there, making his way out of the pit lane. There's such a Fraser, as that's a
Ginetto on the track. I believe he touched the curb, actually. It's All-Star.
A new season obviously means trying to find all the drivers of all their cars, so that will take some getting used to, but we'll get better at it, I promise, maybe.
But for the most...
Sorry, but you get it wrong around that final corner. It seems a lot easier to do than you would imagine.
That's kind of just how the curbs are on certain tracks like this. The curbs are very much flat. So the slightest bit of a tire just, you know, accelerating off the wrong way will spin a car out. It's been proven to be quite a tricky last corner if you do take it a little too much wide.
GTS then towards the line. Can he improve on his last lap time? He can. He goes up to P4 with a 130.8 and knocks some cones out of the way and makes his way back to the pit lane.
Oh, Adam
Croker around there. Tricky corner as he puts himself back into the pit lane there. Here comes the red then towards the line. 131.4 is his best so far. Can he improve on it? No, he can't. Yes. Whether that was an outlap or not, Cypher.
Now, one thing that I'm kind of wondering actually is how these cars are going to react in racing situations, because we're going to say on the actual starting line it's very narrow, so should a driver get a jump from decently far back in the pack, could see 3 wide going into turn 1. Actually, it's not uncommon here, but at a track like Laguna Seca you more or less want to start up front, considering A, that's less traffic, and B, a lot of drivers are prone to mistakes on the first lap, especially around here where it seems like when drivers make mistakes, they come back on the track, and that just creates a dangerous situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting to see how the drivers approach, we'll say turn 2, actually, because that's the first braking point of the second. That's a Porsche round the wrong way there. Here comes Gavra Racing. He's going now towards the line. Post 131.7 is his best so far, and it's 131.2. Gets himself up to 6th place in qualifying with around 6 minutes and 40 seconds remaining.
Now, if I'm anyone from around second on back, now I have to be at least a little bit concerned, because it seems like no one can actually put a time into the 129s at least. So these are concerning times right now.
Yeah, as you say, crazy.
Little spin there.
Tail happy, yeah. And as you say, some drivers, if they make a mistake, they rejoin onto the track there. But well, that's that qualifying lap abandoned, that's for sure. But as it stands, everyone has setting out some of that time in the session, because that's the Mustang now going wide as well. So everyone just maybe a pretty bit of first race of the season nerves here. Nothing like that for Javier so far in this qualifying session.
Yep, he had cars off everywhere. Porsche's off. I believe he was getting out of the way, actually. There really isn't any safe area to let drivers go on a track like this, since it's so narrow, actually. So, oh, Max getting it wrong off the second to last corner there.
That's Red Hook slipping through, and will that affect his lap time? So makes his way now towards the line. Coming line 134, 134. As an also across the line, has he improved on it? No, he hasn't. He's still pushing, so obviously that might have been a man. It's Adam Crowfoot here. We saw him down the wrong way around the final corner a couple of minutes ago, but he's on a flying lap right now. 5 minutes left of the qualifying session. He's both makes his way around the final corner towards the start finish line. 131.4 is his best so far. Can he improve on it? No, he can't. Or stays in 8th place.
This driver is now getting fueled up for probably their final runs. Is getting close to under 5 minutes now, actually. A little surprising that the times are as close as they are in the mid-pack, actually. But so far, I don't really see any sort of car in particular getting an advantage. Maybe the KTMs in this kind of sector would probably actually get an advantage, but so far, Laguna Seca looking like kind of an equal track for all the cars.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rose makes his way now around the final corner. Hopefully this is a cleaner lap for him as he makes his way up towards the start finish line. 130.6 is his current best lap time. Can he improve it? Yes, he can. 130.0. 1.3 seconds now behind Javier, but that's still a big gap to make up.
Ryan, the newcomer, coming to the line here. Can he improve his time of 130.5? Nope, stays in 4th place.
Absolutely. And I've just seen someone pop up at the bottom of the table there. It's Bowie. So we were saying before the stream, Bowie is a shame he's not here. He finished 2nd place in the pre-season race. He is here tonight, but it's cutting it fine whether he will get a lap or not.
I think he'll get a lap in. It's 3 minutes. He can get maybe one in, but he's got to make it a good lap. He's out now, actually. You should see him coming up here.
It's just a bit off the standings for now. We'll have to keep an eye on that and see when he comes back. But on board with Javier. 128.3. He's actually gone quicker. 3/10 quicker though. Well, that seems to be really, really one to watch. Is it worth putting a bet on Javier? All races won in this season? Maybe in the first leg, of course. Over the next 4 weeks, we'll listen to some tracks that might favour this.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of racing seasons kind of start with one driver's dominance, but I mean, it's kind of hard to keep up that consistency over a bunch of races, so I'd say hold your bets and see what happens.
Javier then obviously on a flying lap, so he makes his way now to turn 9 here. Now he makes his way towards turn 10. So all that track, all that curve, chucks the car in, and now heading towards turn 11. It's a harsh braking zone just before the 300 people. It seems a bit far there, but here comes Javier towards the line then. Using a bit of slipstream from the car ahead, can improve on his 128.3 as he makes his way towards the line. No, he can't. But,
also, I believe that Bowie disconnected, actually. I saw his ticker leave.
Well, someone else has left as well, because we're down to 13, or 14, if I'm not mistaken, or was that
15. There was 15 here a second ago. So
hopefully that all gets rectified.
if Bowie manages to make it back here in decent time. He'll at least start the race, but he'll have to start in the back. I'm not entirely sure who was the second driver to go out.
I'll have to have a check and see who it is on the session end, but here comes Crazy. Currently P2, or maybe runs a little bit wide there for my liking, but he makes his way towards the start finish line. What can he do? Can he improve? Can he get into the 129s? No, he can't. 130.0, so that is it for Crazy. He's got maybe one more run to have, but using those tyres for another lap, they might not give him the grip he needs for the qualifying session. GTS calls it a day then in his Aston Martin. It's going to be at least P5 as that's on Schwab there. Getting onto the gravel, dust, whatever you like to call it. I think
Dirt.
it's sand here in Seca, isn't it? Sand there.
I have no idea. I just call it dirt.
Just call it a day. Schwab is back into the pits there. Becca Racing there. It's the onboard with him, but nothing from him. The camera following him just to have a little bit of a problem. But Crazy out there. We've got 4 drivers with Crazy getting.
Well, he's drifting
a little
that.
bit out of shape there. Yeah, a little bit out of shape through turn 2. It's not going to help his tyres too much, but he is on a flying lap. We've got Alex there and making his way down towards turn 10. What he needs is currently 11th place, 3.7 on the lead time. As he makes his way around the final corner now. With that outside curve as he makes his way towards the line then. No lap of validation here, and he crosses the line. It's 131.4, so that is an improvement, but not enough to get him up the table there.
And Crazy finishes, no improvement on his lap. So it's set.
But yes, Javier on pole by 1.7 seconds from Crazy in second, Ryan Ruby in third in that KTM, Red in fourth there. GTS in fifth, Shrammy sixth, Husa seventh, Becca Racing in eighth, Shushikata in ninth, and Alan Prosa is in 10th place. That's your top 10 heading into the race.
Interesting qualifying session. I mean, for the most part, as long as your name isn't Javier, you're relatively close to everybody else. But who knows? We saw some interesting things at Nürburgring on the start. We're bound to see some even more interesting things happening. Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Are you going to say something there?
Yeah, just make sure to have the map and the speedometer on screen.
I'm still learning, don't worry. There you go. And Bowie has just joined. Then disconnected.
Yeah, I don't think Bowie will make it, unfortunately. It's a little too late as the race is starting, which is a tough break.
Yeah, absolutely not the way you want to start the season. You never want to wish ill of your opponents, but he'll be hoping that Javier doesn't take the first 30 points of the season, as 36 laps await us for the first round here of the GT4 Premier Series at Laguna Seca. And moments away now, I'm going to hand it to you, Cypher, for the race start.
I was All-Star who I was thinking of disconnected. He's the other driver.
Yeah, All-Star actually had a one-place grid penalty, I'm assuming, for track limits.
Yeah. Well, as the drivers ready their fuel and whatever else they feel like changing before the race, we'll see what happens. We're just as intrigued as you are to see what happens going into turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always nerve-wracking when you don't actually know when the start is. There's no sort of timer around, so we're just talking, Cypher, and hopefully there'll be a camera cut. There it is. So I'll hand it over to you, Cypher, for this one.
The sounds of the GT4 engines revving up here as we head to 4 red lights here at GT4 Laguna Seca. And we're off. Javier gets a good start, but Crazy on the outside gets an even better start than him. Red following in right behind Crazy as they head down towards turn 1. Hope no one hits those cones there as there's a crash in the back. It was a KTM and I believe the Mustang of Max Blee in the back. They were all involved. As I believe, yes, Husa is the KTM involved in that. It's a shame because he started so well up the field, but back up front, Javier leads from Red, who has been able to get past Crazy on the first turn, as Ryan now goes up inside the Porsche of Schwami. And, oh, there's contact, Ryan, and I believe that's, I forget. But Ryan and the Aston Martin make contact, and that's heavy damage to both of them right off the gate, as the Mustangs, who also were involved in the first, not even first turn, but first kind of indent accident, as we head through the blind left-hander. Everyone gets through that relatively okay, but back up front, Javier now leads from Red, who got a decent start but couldn't exactly get around Javier, as they now go under the turn 8A right now, going into turn 9. Aled's right on the back of Adam, going down into turn 10, and he makes it stick.
So it's been a bit of a crazy start there. Who's obviously involved in the first corner, you could say. It was actually Crazy who was the other car involved in it.
And we got a car in the dirt at turn 10. I believe the last car on track. It looks like GTS. Yes, it is GTS, who also had a good start, but seems to have lost it around that off of into turn 10. Got a little bit of front bumper damage.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. That won't be helping you too much. Just we've got Musa and Crazy into the pits there. Now, of course, there's no mandatory pit stop in these races, so well, they've had to put in obviously for damage, and that could be race over before it's begun. Although they finish, they can still score points in their championship.
That's true. It looked like, just like I said, the narrow nature of Laguna Seca led to some collisions in the back of the pack, and well, there just really isn't anywhere to go, honestly, when collisions happen, because the cars kind of just wash back on the track a little bit. Lisa and Crazy, who both did pretty good in their own rights, just in the wrong place at the wrong time at the start there, as, ooh, right in front of Shushkata, Adam has to take evasive maneuvers, as the Porsche ahead of them, Chlami, I believe, also ran wide off the corkscrew, as, oh, and then he goes himself off at the turn 9, going into turn 10. Shushkata.
Yeah, it's been a little bit crazy at the moment with these first couple of laps here, as Javier has started lap number 3, and that's come up with a little out of shape there, coming out of the final corner. And we'll see how Shushkata can defend coming up the hill. He's got Ryan right behind him, who was trying to set the pace in the KTMs there, as that's a very interesting camera angle there, coming in towards turn 2, and see cars like when they head back out, well, Shushkata there did have a run on the car ahead of him with Grover, but couldn't quite make anything of it, as Grover again, it's a little bit wild on the exit that corner, and again allows Shushkata here to try and close in, add that bit of pressure onto him, and you can see that Shushkata, the first sector has gone almost half a second quicker than his best lap so far. Up the hill now, you can see that's Trami there as well. Not getting the best out of the car here. It's close back on the track right now. This new car battle here for 5th place as Shushkata gets very close to the Aston Martin in front of him as we head up the hill now towards the corkscrew. Now, can they all make it through this one this time? As we head now towards the corkscrew, and All-Star has disconnected for another time. But you can see that again. Broker under pressure from Shushkata then. Turn 9, then down towards turn 10. Able to hold on for now.
Back up front though, after 4 laps, Javier has ran away from Red off the start, and behind Red, I believe Beckeritz and Alitz have kind of fallen into place in 3rd and 4th place. So the only really major battle going on here, besides this battle, seems to be the battle going on in 8th place right now between Joe, GTS, and Maxpley, who were all sort of involved in their own little incidents near turn 1 at the start of the race. You see the damage to Joe Black's Mustang there.
Yeah, absolutely. You see Joe Black pressure there. There's a car flipping over there. That's Schwami. Let's see if we can I don't know what happened there, but there is definitely a car off there, and it is Schwami. He went tail over bonnet there, and the whole rear of that car is destroyed. No rear wing, and you can see that poor Porsche exposed at the back there. I'm not entirely sure what happened. The camera angle wasn't great. All I can tell you was that Schwami got some airtime.
He was fighting with Shishkata, and I don't know if maybe there was contact there. He was in front of him as well as Adam, but seems like Shishkata's actually fallen a little away from Adam, so maybe him and them maybe slowed up for some reason.
Bizarre one, but luckily that car's still running for Schwami then as he makes his way through the corkscrew. Interesting to see if he comes into pit then, how much damage is on that Porsche. Lap 5, and Javier is still leading 8 seconds. Leads from Red Bear in second place, and Beccaratis in third. That's your top 3 so far. Shishkata comes into the pits, so he might have had some damage then, as there comes the KTM into the pits, and Schwami's going to follow him in as well. So both cars involved, and it looks like both cars have damage.
So Adam being the lucky one of the 3, so maybe there was contact between Shishkata and Schwami, because we saw Shishkata was actually moving up the field a little bit. So as Ryan now off the track near turn 10.
Might have made just a little bit of a mistake then on that corner. And he's doing so well for KTM there. As GTS comes into the pits, maybe that front bumper has got a little bit out of control. It has got worse there. In fact, he's missing the front end there of that car, so he's had to come in now to repair that car and repair the damage on it. So a lot of action in this first race of the season, as expected really, as the drivers get used to each other out on track. You've got Craze obviously with that instant Porsche of Schwami, who joins just behind him. So Schwami here has rejoined in a good position. He's lost around about 3 places, I think, from where he originally was. So not the end of the world, and he's still got a battle ahead of him.
Well, I think the great winners of all this happens to be I think Alex and Adam in 4th and 5th, who have seemingly been around all the issues, but somehow managed to keep their stuff on the track compared to everybody else. There's now a huge battle going on coming up to turn 8 with a bunch of lap down cars, as there's a car coming off the blind right actually. Yes, it's crazy, and I think Schwami and Ryan, who all seem to have come out together, even though I'm pretty sure one of these guys is a lap down.
Well, I don't think anything is supposed to. The red and blue dots tell you where they are relative to the race. If they've got a red dot, a blue dot, a lap ahead. If they've got a blue dot, they're a lap behind. Correct me on that one side.
No, you're right. I forget. I'm thinking that Laguna Seca has a really long pit timer, but it's actually not that long relative. But yeah, surprisingly enough, everyone here has stayed on the lead lap as Ryan now goes on the inside of the black Porsche itself, and up a position he goes for his recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. But that Porsche's not going to go too easily. But Ryan able to get away. His next target is Crazy, up ahead of him. Lap 7, Javier still leads from red, and he's 10 seconds ahead.
Get out! Get out! Get out!
Beccaratis there.
Get out!
Turn 2.
Sorry about that.
You left the commentary. How could you?
I don't know. I try, but somehow there's always seems to be a mouse that gets in here.
A mouse that gets in there? A mouse that in the combination code?
Yes.
I thought we agreed on that code.
I don't know, man.
Who did you tell? Anyway, back to the race. Shishkata there in P7. He's got Crazy behind him. Of course, these two did have their scuffle at the start, and Crazy then trying to recover as best he possibly can. And it's a little bit of a gap sort of between the top 6 cars. So 9 seconds back from the leader, 18, 22, 30. Then a big gap towards Joe here. He's in P6. He's 57.6 down in the lead at the moment, and that gap is always increasing. Battles to watch then, Shush Carter and Crazy, and you've also got Ryan and Swami battling away for 9th place.
Right. Javier's times have actually been dropping quite significantly. He's fallen back into Red's time. Well, not necessarily time, because he's still 10 seconds ahead, but he's been dropping to around the 31s now, as Red's consistently putting in times around the 131s and 30s, so who knows, maybe Red has the long run pace compared to that Aston Martin.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, there's no need for any of the drivers to pit in this race. It's lap number 7, or lap number 8, I should say. 11.1 is the gap, and well, for Javier then, obviously if you don't get much broadcast time and you're in the lead of the race, it's fair to say you must be doing something right.
True. I mean, it's not that we're against Javier leading or anything, we just got nothing to talk about with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Joe's actually come into the pits then from 6th place. Now, I wonder if he had some sort of damage there. As that is Shishikata making his way around the final corner. He now jumped onto Sharon for some reason. Maybe that was more interesting than what I was watching.
Also, I just remembered, you had the keys to the booth. This isn't technically mine anyways. So if anyone, you left the door open.
Well, I don't know who I told, but there you go.
As we go back to the race. The lead lap car is actually, I believe that's Javier right behind, actually. I was starting to come up to some lap traffic, so hopefully nothing wrong goes there.
So hopefully we won't get one coming.
Oh, that would be nice.
That would be nice. But it's the first race of the season. These things are bound to happen, like forgetting to change the lock.
Well, I didn't have the keys, so you can't blame me.
I see. I'm just shifting all the blame onto them.
Well,
fantastic.
What do you want me to do?
Interesting though, Alex here is closing in on Gavra Racing. That's around about 4 seconds to both cars. And Alex, the on for podium, didn't have the greatest pre-season race. But I'll tell you what, it's bounced back up to 4th place right now.
Right. As we head into, actually, just coming up to the start-finish line, Shishikata has gotten away from the pack chasing behind him, which is Crazy, who's trying to make up time after that early race incident. Obviously, it was these two actually who were involved, but it seems like Crazy's now trying to track him back down and see if he can regain 6th place, yes.
Yeah, so I'm guessing, so for those who haven't sort of played Project Cars 2 before, obviously Ryan's got an exclamation mark next to his name. What could that mean? I suppose it could be track limits. That could be the track limits there. He's trying to close in on Crazy.
Oh, well, it looked like it went away. Sorry, I wasn't really paying too much attention.
That's alright.
I mean, if there is some people who have track penalties, it'll show up at the end. But for the most part, I wouldn't say there have been many track penalties. Everyone seems to be quite vigilant with that today, considering you still lose time anyways when you go through the dirt. So for the most part, I think this is a fair game right now for Ryan as he tries to attack Crazy right here going into the final turn.
Don't forget, there's also the Shishikata ahead of him as well.
Ooh.
Crazy runs wide at the final corner.
Very
he can't
wide.
get the power down here. Very wide, and it looks like Ryan Rubin has the place there. As I'm trying to ride back on board with them, and there they are, side by side, going through turn 1, and Ryan Ruby has that position as we head down towards turn 2. Ruby's going to go defensive now as we head into the Andretti hairpin, and he's got the position away from Crazy there, And Crazy, well, he made that move all his own doing there by just using that back end and going wide at the final corner.
Now, I could be seeing things, but there were some dark clouds. I mean, rain isn't forecasted, but obviously temperatures and stuff are very important to how some of these cars handle. So we may see a cooler track here for some of these drivers, and we'll see how that plays into the handling differences. We now have Husa trying to chase down Schwami right in front of him, who's another driver who started well but had his fair share of incidents as, wow, I'm just looking now, it's only lap 10.
Well, we still have a bit of drama from time to time, and well, 10th lap of the race then. It still leads 13.7. That gap's gone up gradually. We looked at the standing for lap 7, and the gap was 11 seconds. So 40 seconds extended his lead over 4 laps. It's quite some pace Javier has got right now.
True. He's actually in this swarm trying to pass some lap down cars who are also fighting, actually. I believe he's lapped pretty much up to 6th place. He'll be on the back of Shikata pretty quickly. But right now, the major battle coming up here is between Husa, as you see Javier going down to turn 2 right now. Yeah, I think that is Shikata and Ryan battling ahead of him, Javier.
KTM, he's got the pace advantage over the Porsche, so we head our way now through turn 4 and the end of sector 1 so we're losing a 10th there. That's not bad considering he's technically back on the Porsche as we head towards turn 5 then, and we're running on board with the KTM as the Porsche just loses a bit of traction there on the exit, and that's Crazy up ahead of them, who was off the track once again, and that is Huso going up the inside, and he's got the little local Schwami there, going up the hill and towards the corkscrew. Crazy is their next target. You can see Crazy seems to be struggling with grip out there.
That is true. It's a little strange considering he did qualify pretty decently, but in the race conditions, just not really finding the consistent pace some of these drivers. As well, as we go back up front, I believe Javier now coming up to the back of the other KTM to lap him as well, as we see he now has a 24-second gap to 2nd place, which is immense.
I wonder if Red made a mistake there, because that was around 17 seconds the last time we looked at it. It's gone all the way up to 24. I wonder if they made a mistake. I'll have to see this last lap. Line. Yeah, it's a 138. I reckon he made a mistake out there. It's still leading 24.1. So we're on lap 13 of this race in this GT4 Premier Series. And the question is, Barry can connect to a race session and challenge Javier.
I mean, nothing's impossible, of course, but at this rate, Javier's kind of got the pace over everyone, but even the mightiest people have bad days. We saw that he was a little bit vulnerable on the start, so it's kind of where it's kind of the only chance some of these drivers had is on the start. As you now see Swami going into the corkscrew, Crazy a little bit wide once more. I wonder if he has just some handling issues with his Aston Martin. He just has a little bit of front damage.
Crazy obviously having that damage early on in the race, so around the final corner, Husa's right behind him, so they make their way now through to the final corner. There's off board, a better camera angle, that's better. It seems to just switch away from anyone I'm watching at the start of the line, almost as if they think they're going into the pit lane, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. Two seconds through turn 2, chasing down, and Schwami also turn 2, maybe a bit more wide than my liking. But again, so that's probably why I'm on commentary rather than racing.
I do both. One obviously better than the other. I'll let you figure out which one I do better, though.
I'll leave that up to you guys. As Grover here.
Nope. And he spins hard into the wall.
Oh, we just cut onto him, and we were just about to say that him and the car behind, that was Shushikata. Looked like they were going to have a good battle there, but, well, Grover let the pressure get to him. As the camera finds him coming towards the corkscrew, that could be a pit stop for Grover, and that could be a huge dent in his race.
I'm going to pretend you made that joke on purpose.
Joke? What joke?
You said dent. So. Nonetheless, he'll most definitely have to pit. I mean, that was a head-on collision with the wall. Obviously broke something with the steering of that car. It's a shame, honestly, because he was one of the few cars who hadn't made a mistake all day so far.
He's obviously just coming to the pits to repair that damage. So that's going to promote Crazy and Musa up a position. They're up to 7th and 8th now. As they head now down towards turn 2. It looks like the Aston Martin has the advantage in the straight line. Coming towards here, looks like the KTM has the advantage. So it's an interesting battle there as Crazy again loses the grip there. I think he's having trouble with that Aston Martin. It might be with the grip in that car, but it just doesn't seem as planted through the corners as the KTM does.
Red losing even more time. His last lap was a 140 actually. So he's in a world of his own, second albeit, but if he kind of dozes off a little bit, he's losing quite a lot of lap time to even fall to the clutches of Beckeritz if he wastes too much time actually. But we haven't talked too much about the Porsches. They've kind of been in a world of their own, albeit a good world actually, as Adam now pits.
Still on defensive from the KTM as they head towards the corner. You're right, they're Red and Beckeritz are elite teammates for the season, so they might have a little bit of strategy. So that's that was Musa, sorry, running wide.
Yeah, he tried to cut back in, but he went too far and hit the dirt on the outside actually. It's very easy to do if you think you can try to arc it into turn 9, but went a little too far. Now it's susceptible to Schwami here, who's caught back up.
And Schwami getting the traction down and getting the speed. Seeing the Aston Martin versus the KTM. But the KTM lacks a straight line speed, but it lacks a straight line speed.
True. In the Nürburgring, we saw how some of the Aston Martins and Porsches were pretty good on a straight line. I expected the KTMs to at least perform in Sector 3, but it seems like they're struggling just as much as most of the other drivers here. I've seen pretty much everyone make some sort of mistake except for Javier, really. So this track, while not being too big in it or anything, it's definitely one where a single mistake can kind of end your day.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's trying to keep his head down, trying behind Lewis. That's a lap car ahead of him, and I believe that's going to be Max. So now head towards the full screen. As you were saying in qualifying, there's no real easy way to let someone past at this track. You can see how much time Schwab has actually lost there through the corkscrew. That's the worst possible time to be back on.
That's true, especially considering these are single-class cars. It's not like a multi-class situation where it's quite easy to gain speed on another slow driver. These drivers are just sort of naturally slow to one another, so it's definitely something that you have to work around. It's not something you can prepare for when you reach back markers. It's kind of an art. Some would say that, well, that we don't even need blue flags, but honestly, there's rights and wrongs to how back markers and lead lap cars should interact. A track like this, it's one of the more difficult ones when it comes to something like that, actually.
Yeah, someone just in the chat there asking, is damage on? Yes, damage is on full.
Oh!
Shushikata goes off. really off there.
Oh,
And he spun the tyres up. Oh, he's just about kept out of the wall there, but that's not good at all for Shishkata. And maybe let the pressure get him. That looked like a good KTM versus KTM battle there. But any chance of that is gone now. What also surprises me as well, or we should keep an eye on, I should say, is that mechanical failures can happen at any point in this series. The car can just give up on you, and that's that. So whilst Javier is leading by 41.3, he's got to look after that car as well.
I mean, from personal experience, it's not too difficult to look after a car when mechanical failure is something. It would mainly happen if you happen to be shifting, aggressively or one too many times, which can happen. You can stall out your gearbox quite easily if you do that. But, as long as he just keeps it on the road and doesn't have a major accident, I don't see anyone really having a big mechanical failure. And worst case scenario, you could come into the pits to fix it.
Ruby then currently running in 5th place, and that is Alex ahead of him. 27.1 seconds is the gap between himself and Alex. 1 minute 34 is the gap between himself and the leader.
I believe Javier is lapped all the way up to Ryan, actually. Yeah, just about. So give him some time and he might lap all the way up near to the podium, actually. You see Reds going around the lap car as well. Halfway through this race, and well, let's just give you a quick rundown of all the drivers. Javier leading this race since the drop of the green flag has pretty much led the dominant race with essentially no damage, actually. Red behind him in one of the Porsches, also kind of minding his own business, got a really good start which got him into 2nd place, and right behind him his teammate Beckeritz, who also got a good start, has found himself into 3rd place after everyone else's incidents. These 3 drivers more or less have kind of kept a clean record the entire race. It's when you go down to 4th place and down, you start seeing drivers who have made mistakes. Alex, who has had an up and down day, but has somehow managed to find his way back into 4th place in the other Porsche. We'll see if maybe he can mount a charge for the podium, or if he doesn't have that much pace left in him. Ryan, who's been in the wars today as well in that KTM, he's also found his way back up. Shishkata, who hasn't had the greatest pace today, but he's still hanging in there. Crazy, another interesting case where it wasn't really his fault for the wreck, but he's had quite a number of incidents where he's just not been able to control his car, so I suspect there might be a little bit more damage than the car is telling us. And right behind him, Husa, who had that spin in turn 1 at the really beginning of the race. He's come back to 8th, so he's made a recovery, but not the recovery he's wanted. As behind him, Schwami, who was also doing really good in his own right before his crash. He's gotten the damage repaired, and he's coming back out there to see if he can find anything. The 2 Mustangs, Joe, also involved in that first turn incident, hasn't really been able to recover. Adam, who was also doing really good at one point until his spin, and GTS, who, unlike his teammate, is having quite a horrid time at this track. And Max Blee, the last and the other Mustang, who has also been in the wars quite a bit today.
There's your full rundown there. So on the closest battles on the track, it's between Graze and Musa as they head towards the battle for 7th place. And of course, every position, if you finish, is a good scoring position. And it's a little bit different to how the points scoring works. As it stands, so you get 30 points for the race. It's 24 points for 2nd place, 21 for 3rd, 18 points for 4th place, and it continues all the way down in points down to 16th place, which is 1 point. So as long as you finish this race, you will get points on Max. Now, P13 could be 4 points more for this season.
Well, that's true, but you know, this may just be one race, but drivers start really stacking up wins and podiums. It's very easy for one to just get away from the rest of the field. That's what kind of makes this interesting. It's only one race, but it's a race where you are giving up a lot of points.
It's really closed in on Jose. It's 10. It's the final turn 11. Lucy's breaking later than the Aston Martin. Aston Martin is already wounded. You can sort of tell from that lack of grip out there for the Aston Martin. Now here's Lucy's on the way up the hill through turn 1. We'll see now Will Husa brave enough to try and move down towards turn 2 in the Andretti hairpin.
Oh,
Right to go for it there, came very close to the back of the Aston Martin. But couldn't quite get a move done. So Greze stays in P7 for now.
right, it looked like he was going to go down to the inside, but Crazy, obviously thinking better, blocked the inside and really only gave him the outside chance. But on a track like this, you really do need the inside of a corner to make anything sort of happen here. We'll see if Husa can get a better run. I'm curious to see where he'll try to make the move, actually. Oh, as it goes a little wide on the curb.
That's going to help him his way up the hill through his lying left-hander as we head now up the hill towards corkscrew for these guys. It's the 20th time they're heading towards it. Husa losing a little bit of grip, breaking in there. And Greze not getting the greatest exit. As you can see, he goes defensive towards the inside there, trying to make use of the grip there, but now the head all turns in. Oh, Greze loses the back end! Oh, that was a scary moment there for Husa. But somehow both cars are facing the right way, and Husa now up to 7th place there. We're talking about how that Aston Martin doesn't seem to have the grip of the other cars, and that just proved it once again.
That's right, Husa definitely thinking the better of it, going around the outside. As you see now going into the left-hander, going up to the corkscrew now. I believe there's an interesting situation going on there between lap cars and some cars trying to get ahead.
Just to see who it actually is in that battle.
Oh, there's a car off. Oh, it's Schwami.
Found them at last. A bit too late there. He spun the car around, and there goes an Aston Martin with a lap down on Schwami, so he doesn't lose a place there. And well, it doesn't look like there's too much damage to that Porsche.
Alright, I think he just spun it off the curb, which is very easy to do. The curbs are quite flat, so when the tires hit them a certain way, they just kind of take the car in with it.
21 laps so far, and in fact Javier was actually on lap 23 out of 36. So we have 14 laps left of this race, and Javier is leading by 52 seconds from Red then. So it's been a dominant performance from him so far, but you know, we've got 15 laps left to go. Anything can still happen.
Right. Actually now I just noticed, maybe Ryan, I think, does have a penalty considering his number is red. So I wonder if it's probably for a time penalty somewhere for track limits. We'll have to see at the end of the race exactly what his penalty is. But for now, the closest battle that seems to be going on right now, Husa just trying to get away from Crazy. None of these guys really having the consistent record so far this race, so I'd say this battle isn't over just yet, actually.
Absolutely. Turn 6 up the hill now towards that sort of slight left-hander. Oh, sorry, I was in the wrong place to track. Now we're heading towards turn 6. Can you tell I've never been to this track before?
No, not really. Well, I've never been here either, but I should know it. But I don't.
Well, I mean, I lose myself on track. It happens quite often, more often than you think anyway. But But Hussein now making his way down towards turn 10. Aha, I know where I am on circuit now. But yeah, I mean, that mistake from Fraze earlier in the race sort of gifted Hussein that position. To sort of get the power down and try and get the gap he needs to that Aston Martin. As we've seen, the Aston is pretty good on the straight. Maybe that's where Fraze is just making up that time. Let's see what the last lap times are between the two drivers. Yeah, Hussein 1:33.1, Fraze 1:33.2. Their last lap time, so they're very close to each other out on track and pretty much match the times.
Right. So not too much going on the track right now. Everyone is more or less kind of rebounding from their own separate incidents. I'm kind of surprised there hasn't been a few more incidents involving lap cars. Everyone seems to be doing pretty diligently with that, actually, as leaves his car slow going into the corkscrew, unless that's just a lap car going through. But oh, that's crazy off in the background.
Damn, that Aston Martin just doesn't seem to have the grip the other cars do. I mean, he lost that car just going through turn 5 there.
Yes. I mean, he's probably driving out of frustration now, which doesn't help. I mean, he's clearly got his head on straight, but the car is not really going to respond the way he wants it to, and overdriving the car never really helps in a situation like this where you knew you have a good car, but because of what's happened, it's just not as good as you think it is.
Actually, the field is pretty spread out. The next car Fraser has to worry about is Schwann. So makes his way towards the lap car.
Oh no, that was the Porsche of, I think that's Beckett's in front of him.
It's getting confusing now, on boards and everything like that. I'm getting used to the cameras, it's just working out where everybody is on track now.
Yeah, the top three have lapped, I think, up to around 7th or 8th at this point. Although Javier seems to have lapped all the way up to around 4th place, actually.
Red is 59 seconds behind. Becker is 10. I think from Alex downwards have been lapped, and they have, yeah, because Alex is coming through the final corner. So, yeah, Becker Artis is turn 4 now, it's turn 5. So that red dot you can see there on your map, that's Javier. That's how much he's been dominating this race. He could be lapping the podium. So.
Down in... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it gives us that sort of Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher got into the wet. I remember one of his races, he lapped the entire field apart from the podium. So maybe Javier can cope one better. I think that was Spain. When he lapped pretty much the entire field. Maybe something he went from the chat. It was actually pouring with rain, and Schumacher just absolutely drove that Ferrari to where a pace level that it shouldn't have been at.
Well, I mean, I'm not too surprised considering his pace in practice and qualifying, breaking the speed record pretty much twice actually, but it is a little surprising to see that he hasn't at least had some form of competition apart from the start. I can't say I didn't see this. I can't say that I expected him to lap this far up the field, but to be fair, a lot of the field has had their own incidents, so I think around 4th on down, there have been incidents between everyone there.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens also the next round. We're not done here. The next race though is at Daytona road course, where we're heading next. And again, that seems to be a track that obviously it has that long oval, but it also has that equal section that really tests the car's mechanical grip. And will we see the Aston Martins benefit on the straights again? It'll be interesting to see how drivers go through and set their cars up for that Daytona road course.
Definitely, it's a a lot different than Laguna Seca, to be frank. Actually, it's a lot more speed and straight line focused, and I think some of the drivers would like that a lot more than this track actually is. Going to the last turn, there's a car off in the dirt, actually. 2 cars actually, I think had an incident in coming to the start finish line now. Actually, one car going very slow. Yeah, I know. Okay, I think it was Max actually. Try cutting that. Yeah, it was Max. He definitely collided with whoever was in front of him, which I think was another lead lap car actually. So I wonder who he's had an incident with, or if it was just him actually.
It's always difficult to say who both the dots were blue, and well, we eventually found the car. Probably was up front. It's like it's seen better days. That's for sure. The field is so spread out. That upper road is having its blue. So it's easy. Max just got to run out of the point there. That was having coming up the hill now. And we're at lap 28, so we have 9 laps to go. 8.5 if you're going to be quickly as we get to this corkscrew. And Javier there looking very much in control and very, very confident. Battle happening behind them, battle for 8th place here between the Aston Martin of Crazy and the Porsche of that's Schwab. So let's see how this goes.
Yeah, he did catch up actually right on the back of his bumper here going into turn 1, but the Aston Martin gets a little bit of a better acceleration right off the final turn. We'll see if Schwami can do anything going into turn 1. We expect that Crazy will block going to turn 1. Yes, he does. He goes to the inside. Schwami just has to kind of tuck into line a little bit right now. But Crazy was at least a couple of seconds ahead up the road, so clearly he's lacked the pace needed to stay ahead. As we have a car off, it looked like a Porsche, or no, that's the Aston Martin of Adam. It's had another incident in the wall, so I suspect he had hit the grass a little bit. But back to Schwami and Crazy. See, no, can't really make a move right now. Just definitely stay in line.
See if Aston Martin gets that power down out of turn 6. Sort of up that hill with the shop, just can't really keep up. So we had to use the force. We can see Aston Martin going defensive. Again, trying to guess where the other race is.